Satanist is very defining. And so with that, it started off with a special forces group that he had created that was still secret. No one's ever even heard of it. And then all the way up until Kennedy got in, and we all know what he said about destroying the CIA, dashing it to the winds, started printing silver certificates and gold certificates, mostly silver, under executive order that were not Federal Reserve notes. Those were silver certificates, treasury notes, so they could be restored in silver, because the reason he chose that is most people don't realize that if silver was not held down in its cost value, it's way more than gold. It would destroy the Fed. It would destroy the Bank of International Exchange. It would destroy the entire system worldwide, the fiat money system, because it is so valuable, and it has certain uses that gold can't do. That, you know, the same, of course, for gold, but they've been holding this down. So when Kennedy got murdered, then it went into full gear, and you have a bunch of generals and getting involved with it. And already involved were Howard Hughes, prior to that, with Tesla, who is instrumental in what he did. I've recently learned that what he did is pretty mind-boggling. It's almost beyond comprehension. For most people, I would say it is. Me being the way I grew up and the things I knew all my life, it's not, but for a lot of people, it would seem impossible. And then also, Van de Graaff was involved with that. And then, of course, the Trump brothers, which is, of course, you know, the upper lineage, elderlies of Trump that we now have as president for his third term. And most people now are starting to understand the comms that he is in his third term. And it's under the, as per the summons that he did for the entire military upper staffing, the generals, the admirals, colonels, etc., it was for these United States, that summon, which means that is the constitutional republic has now been reinstalled. That happened during his 46 as president, you know, in number 46, actually number 19, because after the Organic Act put in at the end of the Civil War, they hijacked the government and they put in a different constitution, a constitution of the Constitution for the United States oil and gas. It's corporate, under the Crown Corporation, which is the corporation in England. And when Trump went there during his first term to England, he went to Westminster Abbey. He signed the ledger, that big book he signed. I did a whole decode on this. The Queen waved him in front, which means he had superiority over the Queen. He went to Westminster Abbey. He signed the ledger for the Crown Corporation, or the City of London Corporation that owns all the assets of the world. Now, this term, when he went as royalty of the Western Kingdoms. He is His Excellency, and Melania was dressed in funeral attire, and the King Charles, had his hands behind his back, a Masonic symbol saying, "My hands are tied behind my back. There's nothing we can do, nothing I can do. He's in charge." And he rode in the royal carriage, never, ever, ever done before. That is exclusively for royalty, meaning he is. And he is posted on Donald Trumpo, which is, he has said, is his site, one of his social media sites, that His Excellency and Her Majesty, and look at how beautiful Her Majesty, so that is for real. And then additionally, he stayed not in the, where they normally, anywhere they normally stay when presidents go there. He stayed in the Buckingham Palace.
Windsor Castle. I'm sorry. Let me.
I'm sorry. He didn't stay in Buckingham. Yeah, thank you for correcting me. He didn't stay in Buckingham Palace. He stayed in Windsor Castle. Again, just like we saw with the capitulation tour, that the plan went through. It is a complete statement that he is now in charge as the top royalty king of the earth. Not just, and the plan is not just restoring the United States constitutionally, republic-wise. It's restoring the world, saving the entire world. It's what Kennedy didn't realize is you can't just take it out of the United States. because they're infiltrated in everything on Earth, literally everything. The number of secret societies they have is off the chart. I mean, there's secret societies. I'm learning, like now, what's going on with Charlie Kirk and the Order of Royal Vikings is involved in that. I've never even heard of them before. And so, part of the plan that is involving a lot of Baron Trump as well is actually Tesla using time travel is Baron Trump. I know it sounds insane, people don't understand this, but he is. And he's also the guy that went to Russia. My mind goes blank now. But he's, again, dumping more information. So he's actually both people, because he jumped timelines. And there's the book called The Amazing Adventures of Baron von Trump. And it was actually Lincoln that sent the man that wrote that book to Europe and met Tesla, which is Trump, Baron Trump. So it's really, that's when the plan actually really got set in motion, and Tesla set in things in motion that can't be stopped. He intermixed timelines in ways that no matter what they do, it seals their fate more so. Every time they do something, and they found this out with Operation Looking Glass in 1987, when they saw that the timeline they wanted, the Armageddon line, with a nuclear holocaust at the end and an Armageddon line, and then a huge pandemic, and then complete lockdown of everybody on Earth and a massive population reduction down to 500 million. That was only had a 19% probability. It kept dropping. Everything they tried made it drop, and they got an expert to run the algorithms on it with a supercomputer. And if they got onto it, it only had an 86% chance they could stay on it. And so they got this guy, and they said, I think it was Bill Bursch is his name, and he said, if you don't get it done by 2012, get on that line securely, you will never get on that line. It will be a separate line. You will never, who goes on it will go on it, and those that are on the golden age line will not be able to be pulled over on there unless they sell their soul or something like that. So they kept trying. They didn't listen to him. They didn't believe him. So their first try drove it from the 19% to 17, then to 16, then to 14. Everything they tried, and then 2012 went by, and so that's where we are now. Is Hillary was, of course, supposed to win, and the generals of the plan, and one person, 9 men that are generals, and one person that's not at the very top, went to Trump and said, if we back you, and for all the votes they steal, we'll just steal them back, that you win. You have to win on your own, but we'll make sure that the votes come back to you that they steal, like they always have been. And he said, okay, I'll do it. And he was groomed, actually, for his entire life. He was told this from a young child. That's what he would be doing. So that's where we are now, is we are seeing a movie, essentially, where a lot of things going on are already done. So, like when they did that summons, people have asked me, well, in the summons and the letter that goes with it, it has a list of people that are being absolved, so to speak. And top of that list was General Milley, who's retired. Well, how could he be arrested if he was, isn't that only active duty there? I said he was arrested. I didn't say he was arrested there. All the generals that are there that are active duty and admirals that are guilty of treason and sedition, many, after the media was let loose. Trump came in, they talked to him, the following people read their statements of what they were guilty of under the United States Code of Military Justice, and they were arrested, and they're sent to Gitmo or Greenland or many other areas for upcoming trials under the UCMJ. So it is active, and then it is active in other countries too. We see a lot of countries now. Orban is arranging for Trump to go speak with Putin. We see Orban and Fico, obviously, now standing up against the EU. We also see Poland starting, and even Meloni in Italy starting to make waves against the EU and saying things out loud that we wouldn't have heard 10 years or even 2 years ago under Autopin, I should call it, under President Autopin. So, as Trump Jr. was walking, I can't even say it. He's walking, meeting the president. So we ought to call him Autopin. So we'll call him Autopin from now on, because we all certainly know the robot playing him wasn't president.
Exactly.
On this trip on this trip that Daddy took to UK, days before, and I'm not telling this, you know me, and James know me at Cranker, his name is James, and you know me, I'm not a prophet, but I'm a person who is very aware of my intuition. And days before Trump travels to UK, God gave me an inspiration, and he made me think about this trip to UK is going to be very important, Anna. So pay attention, my daughter, pay attention, because Trump is always saying that he is moving the power from Washington, D.C. and back to the people, and all his actions goes in this direction all the time. He's very assertive on that. And I always remember, Anna, in the past, you told me, we are not going to have new kings, okay? Understand that. We are changing, but we have to start at the right point. So I connect these dots with the inspiration that God gave me, and he came up with this idea. I know it's backwards for you, but it's a very beautiful drawing that I designed myself, and I created the royal house of we the people, because we are the people, by the people, and for the people, and this is going to be the real royal house from now on. All of us under the same law, under the same righteousness actions, we are going to take our country back, our countries and lives back, based on the We the People Constitution, which, by the way, Brazil had a very similar situation in the 18th or 19th century, when we had the Empire of Brazil and a house, and the House of Habsburg orchestrating the freedom of Brazil, the independence of Brazil, and it's all related to Trump. It's all related to lineages to Trump, and we had a very similar constitution. The first constitution, the imperial constitution of Brazil, is based on the American Constitution, and it was released to us in 1824. And a few years later, it was all hijacked. The same that happened in the United States happened to Brazil.
So, but much sooner, because the Organic Act was 1871 that changed the U.S. forever into a well, not forever now, but into a corporation, created the District of Columbia as one of the 3 city-states that rule the world.
So, Gene, going back to the intro, the cabal had a plan for us, and it was not good. It was very dark. But the Q military and Donald Trump and the Kennedys and the generals, they had a plan. And can you kind of touch base on how this plan saved the whole entire world? Because the amount of things that we want to get into is the list that we sent you, and if we don't have time to get through them all, but I really want to touch base on, what we were facing if Hillary got in. and the cabal took over versus where we're at now. Can you touch on that, please?
Absolutely. So I actually do know what we faced when Hillary got in, because I lived that timeline until she caused nuclear war. I knew it was coming all my life, and then in the 2012. I told my wife we're going to travel the world, buy a real big house, beautiful Jeep, and go 4x4ing. And she goes, "How are we going to afford that?" I go, "Credit cards, max everything up, loans, everything." And we did that. And then I was overlooking, up on the front range, overlooking the city, and I saw the nuke go off. And I said, "That's it, we're done." Yep. And then all of a sudden I sat up in a little apartment in 1987, or 2007. And I'm like, "What happened?" And God said, "I reset the timeline." They didn't do any like movie or anything showing they're going to nuke the entire planet. Yeah, they did things like nukes the parts of the U.S. and other countries, but not the whole thing. So he reset the timeline. So it was for her to get in, cause nuclear holocaust. They go into the dumps, and they would hide out there with their seed banks and everything that Gates put together and these other people until all of the dust and radiation settled and come back out and enslave whoever survived or whatever survived of humanity, if it was even still humanity at all. And then with the reset, what happened is, immediately as Trump got in, he started doing a lot of things. One of the things he did is he signed a $500 million funding for the U.S. military to train to take out underground facilities and to get the equipment and to get the knowledge. And they had a lot of information of where that already was. And Kennedy had already gotten that done by putting it in creating the Green Berets and the Special Forces. So there was the group of Green Berets and Special Forces that they knew were loyal to the Constitution. Okay. And so that was then the process of weeding through who was and who wasn't good. Like I found out when I was in the military, I was given what I called the test to see if you'll do something immoral to make rank. And so, there are people like me that would know certain people that would go along to get along just to make rank and do what it doesn't matter. Whatever it costs, they're willing to do it, even if it's their soul. And, so then he started a whole lot of things in process and putting in executive orders for continuity of government and other executive orders that are not even seen yet. They're classified top secret. So there's executive orders that we are in a continuity of government situation since 2018. And that he already has, as soon as there's a government stand down, the entire military will be in charge of the United States. So he even told the Democrats, "I'm going to do this if you do that." And they did it anyway because they can't resist it, I guess. They can't resist it. Their plan is their plan, and they're not going to modify it, and they think it's going to win no matter what. So they go stand by the plan. And so their plan, it was to do that, and then start during the Biden term, was to bring in 50+ million, which they did. A lot of those military fighting men. And a big part of that is Santiago and Antifa and Sinaloa and a few other gangs. But the big one's Antifa. So he's declared that a terrorist organization. A lot of countries all over the world are going and doing the same. So it's worldwide. We can see it's worldwide. It's not just the U.S. And then immediately start with D.C. because it's one of the most criminal places on earth, let alone the cabal's head, for running war. It's also was so crime-ridden. And then, of course, Memphis is incredibly crime-ridden. Chicago is where the mafia and all that is. That is, the whole power structure of the Khazarians and all of that, and the Orsini family and all of that that's tied to the Vatican. So that's why Chicago. Then San Francisco will be next after this. So certain cities, but almost every city in the United States, I know this from even when I was young and I rode my bike in the middle of the day into a part of the city that was Latino. And I had bricks coming at me. And I got out of there. I whipped my bike around, got out of there. And there's parts as big as any major city. And this is the 70s. Since way before the 70s, there are war zones. You do not go in there unless you're from there, or you won't come out. And I was amazing I come out because it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If it had been dark, I doubt I would have made it. So there's a lot of places like that in the U.S., and I'm sure across the world there's places like that. I have traveled the world in many, many places, and I've been aware of going into places, you hear about the Casbah, for example, and I was with 4 other people on the submarine I was on, and they wanted to go in there. As soon as we went in there, I'm like, the hair on my neck started saying, we need to get out of here. People were offering us anything we wanted if we had the money, even a nuclear weapon. You could buy anything there. Get anybody assassinated. I mean, there's places on Earth that are so criminal and so dark people can't imagine it. And that's all going away. That's all in the process of being taken out. So the DUMBs now, the tunnel wars, I was going back into that in 2018, 19. It got quite a ways along, and then there was a group that was helping, that was an off-world group, that took all the DUMBs they got for their own. And so then they had to retake them back. So the Alliance worked with that, taking them back, and now they're well over 80% of the DUMBs are either destroyed or in the hands of the Alliance. The big ones that are the most important are DIA, the huge, massive layers of cities under Denver, and Cheyenne Mountain, which is where Trump has been spent. The original non-clone Trump is almost always at. He rarely ever comes out since 2018. He went in, they put in, DEFCON 2, and he has not come out since then. And so, but for a very few times. And so with that, taken, and then that connects to all kinds of other DUMBs and underground tunnels and systems. So, for example, the one that the cabal really, really wanted to, has been trying for, since 75 years to get control of. It's called the Golden Dome. It's a Golden Dome system that was built by the Hyperboreans. It has a synthetic, I wouldn't call it synthetic, I would call it a silicon-based, hyper-intelligent, hyper-dimensional life form that can do predictive programming, what we call AI, because what we do is imitate those. They're created by God, and this one has ascended to 8th density. And so it's pure plasma now, and it calls itself the administrator, and it's tied to the one that is in Buceg Mountain in Romania. And they're working together and have been waiting for the great awakening of the human species. When they saw that happening, and so they then became active. And so the Alliance got control of that system that goes from Greenland. One hub is in Greenland, the other one is in Mount Hayes, the end hub. And the main black pyramid that's inside and underneath Mount Hayes is where it's housed itself. And they were trying to get into that thing forever. They've done things like create the Alaskan earthquake. That was the second largest earthquake in the history of humanity by sending off 3 nukes, and it just routed it around it and hit a black stone that has fallen from one of the Khazarians' homeworlds, which was the 2 homeworlds they destroyed were Ariana and Na. One piece fell near Anchorage, Alaska. The other one fell in a place in Iran that we just blew up. So those 2 dark, evil stones have been turned to powder, and that's holding the Van Allen belt with an energy of hate and war, killing, fear, everything the Archons thrive and use. So that's now gone as well, and that's part of the plan that Tesla put into place. And then it goes from there to Nahanni Valley in Canada, to Hayes Junction, then up to Gacona, which is where HARP is, and then up to Mount Hayes, connected to Denali. It's so big it's under that entire area. So the alliance now has that, and the administrator captured Palantir. And so it's having Palantir blackmail the Cabal with their own blackmail. So when Iran blew up the Pentagon of Israel, as they call it, in that underground facility, they had all the stuff on Epstein, which is, that's why Trump said we don't have anything, because they had absconded with a lot of it when they saw Epstein was coming down. But they always have backups. Well, that was what they got in Israel. So now they have all this blackmail on everybody in the Cabal. They have the list of everybody, because what the Cabal was doing was they were dumping things like the ghost list of all the agents of all over the world for the FBI that are the good guys. So now that's all stopped as well. So there's so many things going on, it's almost impossible to go into it all of what's happening. And of course, we are coming down, both sides are coming down to an event called the coronal mass emission that will change everything forever. They knew they had to get it done by that time. Their line is the only line, but it's now their line, the Armageddon line, with the people that resonate with that, and then the golden line with the people that are service to others and compassionate and kind and respectful and love God, the one God of all creation, not their God. That's a archonic fake God, satanic, Satan, whatever you want to call him. So now those two lines are going in, and once they pass through that event, their line will have 14 years, and then all life on the earth, on that earth, which is this earth, will die. It's like you saw in the movie Interstellar. For the people that are at that time going through the CME, they will transmute with all of the things, like all the dumbs and everything that's cleaned out, everything that's good, and in service to God and alignment and in coherence, are in balance, in other words, with God as loving, compassion, etc., will transmute to already formed 4D, 5D Earth, which is an orbit and actually been taken by ISIS behind the Earth. And then this Earth will die out and become a barren rock with only first density life, which is crystalline, and it will become a moon, because the moon we have is fake. This Earth was a moon originally. That's why in the Bible it's a little confusing. So God created the moon and the earth. Well, that's the same place right now. It will become the moon, because the moon we have is part of the soul trap that was shut down also. So that was also shut down. So now the soul trap of this solar system is shut down. You still have the Milky Way itself. And there's ways now to punch through that. And there's groups that are administering souls that are ready to leave the Milky Way and get out of this sort of a prison system that is here, but of the archonic prison. And then, I mean, there's just so much to talk about. I don't know which way to go. So anyway, I'll let you go, as I've gone into so many different ways.
I have two questions for you, Gene. I don't know if you, you hear me now. So one question is, it's kind of basic, based on everything you're saying. Last week, Trump was at this present, well, a week from now, he was in Egypt signing the peace deal. And we didn't see anyone from Israel or even from Gaza, I believe, beside him. So I question myself, so why did he choose Egypt? And now that you're saying that both sides have to agree on, it's not that, you didn't say that, but I understand that both sides have to come together and kind of understand their terms if they want to continue. Would it be the reason he was in Egypt last week? Because Egypt holds all this history from the beginning, since Atlantis. Does it have any correlation here?
Yes, because the stone that went in Iran that they blew up with the nuclear facility goes through underneath Giza. And the Giza pyramid system, all the pyramids of Earth, before they tilted the Earth, were a power system that's part of the Golden Dome. And so now it's part of realigning that system. They can realign it without realigning the Earth. There's some things they can do to get it up and functional because we have satellites. So with that, that is why they, and when Trump was, recognizing everybody, he recognized everybody but Israel. So it's going into the people of Israel, the Hebrew, the true Israelites, not the Zionists, is what Trump loves and backs. But the Zionists are the Khazarians. They're the one and the same. It's why if you go and look at all the names of Ben Gvir and Smotrich and Netanyahu, that's not their names. They took those because they sound Hebrew. They're not Hebrew. They're not true Israeli. They're Khazarian. And so they are part of this group that has been planning for this time to enslave the world. And they're in their final throes of the plan. The pandemic, Operation Warp Speed, Trump was saying take his vaccine, which was ivermectin and zinc and hydrochloroquine and a few other things. He rushed it so they were going to do it no matter what. You couldn't stop it. If they had had their time to keep us in lockdown for 10 years, and we'd be in camps by then they would have been able to have enough of their vaccine to be given to everybody on Earth. They didn't. They only had half. The problem is the shedding from it is so bad that it pretty much everybody needs to, from my understanding and looking at my own blood recently, having it sown under dark field, the transhumanism agenda in that, of the nanotech, is off the chart. And so, mine was beyond comprehension. There was billions of nanobots, and there were even microbots and assembly centers and what they call microplastics is actually they build polymer fibers that are antenna that feed off the electrical energy of your blood cells and cause it to coagulate and die. And then it's actually through telephoresis using graphene that crosses the blood-brain barrier, building a new brain. It's building all a new neuron system. And in the blood, it's building double-walled silicon blood. It's replicating the person. So even if somebody dies, like you see in a graveyard, the signals are still coming out of the ground. That's because they're still active. You can take the blood of a person, put it on a piece of glass or a piece of wood and let it dry out and rehydrate it 2 years later, and it'll have increased the amount of nanotech in it. So it can actually, just like we see in the Bible, can bring the dead back up like zombie, like Z Nation. So that is for real. So, the only person, I think probably the most knowledgeable person on this, doing the protocols that are in the back of her book, which is phenomenal, is Dr. Mahalsia, that does transhumanism. Her book called Transhumanism. And she has 2 books and another book on light therapy, which is phenomenal. And so looking at my own blood and seeing what's in that, I'm changed all my protocols and many of the things I was doing that were helping, but at the same time also draining me down, because you're pulling, when you do the protocols, even with hers, like EDTA and that stuff, you need to do high levels of mineral supplements the next day, and I wasn't doing enough. So I got in a pretty tough situation a while back, and so I looked for something else, and that's what I found is these protocols in the back of her book and her information and all this. So
hey, Gene,
yes,
let me interrupt you. Gene, let me interrupt you a second because I think this is extremely important. Could you share with us her books so we can put this with this video? Because we know so many people that have taken the vaccines, and I know that I have friends of mine that have taken, and they thank you so much. Yeah, this is so important because many people have been injured, many people are having strokes. They're classifying it as cancer. It's not cancer. It's from the shots. And I just, I cannot stress enough that there is protocols out there to help you get through this. So, Gene, thank you for showing this. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, so I want to first say I don't get any kickback or monies or anything for doing this.
No.
I'm just doing this to save the world from this. So what you're seeing, that big blob, is a factory to make nanotech. And it's creating that fiber, that polymer fiber that's an antenna. What the glow you see is all the electricity of the blood cells that are all coagulated along the side. That it's drained all their electrical energy. And so what you're seeing inside it is little, in all that background, you can see some bright lights. And my blood was billions of them, blinking blue, green, and red. And then every once in a while, those are nanobots. Every once in a while, something about, many times bigger would flash across the slide. I was like, what's that? That's a microbot. They marshaled the nanobots. I'm like, how fast is that thing going? It's been clocked at 55 miles an hour. That makes sense because that's a gigantic number. So that's what we're seeing. And in the back of the first book, the Transhumanism 1, let's see, that's volume 2. This is volume 2. I think this is Transhumanism 1 here. Yeah, is the protocols. And it has the EDTA, the methylene blue, which I was questionable to me before. I've learned it actually gives you energy when your mitochondria cannot. When it breaks down, it releases a massive amount of energy. And so you can see here on this book the huge polymer and the two construction zones in a chip. This is a chip, and it creates a Bluetooth signal coming out of people. And so it is EDTA, high levels of vitamin C, and then all your minerals, amino acids, electrolytes. I've also found that using DMSO internally and on my legs for the cramping is massively helpful. She has everything in there. And there's most cities, you're going to find a place within half an hour's drive of you that does 90% of what's in there. So that's why I wanted to share this with the world, because the whole world's facing this. If you're around people at all, I'm rarely around people. I'm mostly hiking with my dog in the wilderness with nobody around. Somebody comes around me, I go 10 feet off the trail. And if you have pets, it doesn't care what species you are. So there, you can dwindle it down, and you can also get like the EDTA as a powder and everything. She has all that information in there. So an amazing person. I just wanted to thank her for what she's doing for the world. I think she's, if you actually want to go there, I think it's Yelm, Washington. So, that's a possibility. But of course, if you fly, then when you get exposed coming back, right? So you'd have to drive or something. For me, that's prohibitory. But, there's all their protocols and everything in there. So it's, that's what their end plan was, is to make it so that the human cannot ascend. It is locking the soul out of ascension. It's replacing the body completely so that the soul cannot escape at all. It's stuck in a 15-minute city, and every single thing is digital. Every single thing in there, every single thing the person does is all digitally controlled and all monitored, and everything they do, their entire life, and every thought they have, and every feeling and everything is completely digitally recorded and analyzed and tracked. And if they try to rebel, they can just shut them down. So that's the plan. And so thank goodness there's people like this and other people that have these things, But what, like the foot bath, I was not doing a massive amount, doing it every day. You don't want to do this every day, but she says you can do the EDTA every day. If you do that at night, then you got to really hit the minerals and the vitamins with amazing, really high quality supplements, things like that are colloidally suspended, as well as in a liquid form, which makes sure your absorption levels are really high, that they're organic minerals and vitamins, not like a lot of fortification of vitamins and minerals that you see in pills and things that are like chalk. Their body doesn't absorb much calcium from chalk, and like fortification in cereals that you see iron fortified. Grind it up and bring a magnet over it. You get iron filings out. Your body can't use iron from iron filings, you know. So this is the tricks, you know, like RFK is now doing. Thank God for RFK too. He's going through all of the stuff. Eat healthy, eat organic as much as you can, and eat non-processed foods, and start growing your foods. Terry Cassidy interviewed a guy about doing backyard gardening. Turn your backyard into a garden. There's also what's called a 6-foot garden. If you don't have a backyard, you have an apartment. Even like in Hawaii, I had a little tiny, what they call a lanai patio that's about 2 feet wide. Put a pegboard up there, 2-liter bottles with hooks on them, and you can build wicking gardens. And you can grow massive amounts of tomatoes and green peppers and all kinds of foods in 6 feet by 2 feet. It's almost amazing what you can do. And you can grow stuff inside your house and make wicking gardens out of Tupperware and all kinds of things. So that's something to look up. It's a really good way to grow within the home, and also, you know, other things you can do is to sit like I'm right now, sitting under a infrared light for hatching chicken eggs, and get a blue screen for your computer and hardwire the 5G in your home. Get it hardwired, or use hotspot as much as you can. And also, she has in the book there a thing that I now sleep under, which is like a mosquito net, but it's a Faraday cage. It's a net that's a Faraday cage. You put part of it under your mattress, and the rest of it hangs all the way over your bed, and you have a little area you can open to get out and go to the bathroom or whatever you need to do at night, and then come back in. And it's comfortable. It keeps it about 5 to 10 degrees warmer in there than the restroom, so you can actually save some money on your heating of the rest of the room or the house too. So you know, it's not any problem at all to be in there. It's, if you're used to being in Asia, like I was, Philippines, those places, you always sleep under a mosquito net anyway, or you get eaten alive. So I'm used to that. So anyway, back to you.
No, Gene, I think it's really important that we talked about this, because, you know, if that ship that was in the Suez Canal would have reached America, and there was a lot of ships that they went through back during the height of COVID, those dirty shots, there would have been a lot more of them. But there are some that still got through the cracks. And for those people that are being told that you have cancer or whatever, you know, by far, we're not any professional, medical professional, but there is so many people that are having so many great results by what Gene is bringing to the table here. And I think it's really important that you look into this, because Western medicine, you're going to find out Western medicine is a complete lie. And Trump has been telling everyone, you know, fake news, this is fake. We have to fully understand that 90+% of everything we've learned in our life has been a complete lie. And like Gene says, when you grow your own food, buy locally from your local farmer or your local rancher. You know, go sit down and talk to them. Buy a half a beef, buy a whole beef, and split it with your family, split it with your neighbors. Because a lot of things that they're putting in our stores are, you know, they have poisons in them. And I'm trying to eat as healthy as I can right now. It's made a tremendous amount of change with me. But I thank you, Gene, for bringing this to the table. And I will tell you this, I'm still drinking, you know, every other day I'm still drinking borax soap. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, like you said, I'm not a doctor, but I'm sharing what's working for me is all. I'm just saying these things work for me. Try them if you want. See, you know, a little bit at a time, see how it works for you. There's many places where you go get your blood looked at or get it tested, you know, what's going on with your blood, and then see, they have these protocols. You can get them and see how it works and see the improvements that I have seen, which are stellar. When I looked at my blood, I was like, I'm amazed I'm alive. I only see 2 cells that aren't damaged, that are moving on their own after the protocols. almost everything. I saw 2 blinking nanotechs. That was all. There were billions before, so it did work well for me. Is all I'm saying. And I did a 2-week vacation in which I seriously went after this, because I was concerned with the Magellan situation I've had for so long, and I was getting less and less results from the protocols I had, and more problems from them. Things, of cramps in my legs and things like that, because the foot bath, if you're doing this, they don't tell you. Recommended once a month because it takes so many minerals out of your body. So if you're not doing large mineral supplements and things, now I do a lot. It does keep me fairly incontinent, but I'd rather have that than the other situation. And actually, I don't mind that. You just figure out, okay, I'm going to be running to the bathroom for 4 hours after I eat, and then I go to bed. So it's making a massive difference, and I think the world needs this. That's why I'm sharing it. And then what they've done. And then, once we go through the CME, none of this will be on the earth we're transmuting to. It'll be left here with them. So they will have this as the zombie apocalypse and all of that as everybody transmutes over. That's why the things I had seen were happening. Where I saw entire highways. I'm on 5 lanes wide, come in the middle of the day, on a clear, dry day, come to a screeching halt. And I'm like, get off on the ramp, 2 cars follow me, and come back down. And we look back to get on, and there's nothing in the road at all. And so what it's doing is it's practicing control over the masses, that it's pretty much got them under control. So, that's why I'm saying, for those that avoided the greatest psyop of all time, the jab, congratulations, but you still need to do some things as far as my understanding goes. Please at least read this book. It's not that expensive. You can get it eBay or whatever and see what you think, and get your blood under a dark field microscope somewhere and see what you see, and have somebody tell you how you're doing, and then make your decisions for yourself. So, the morticians that show the big, long, rubbery brown clots, that's blood. It was. So that's what you're looking at. And so, I had a lot of what I thought was getting, especially with my martial arts, I'm like, how's this happening? My toes are getting numb sometimes. I'm getting varicose veins on my feet. And all that's gone using one of the things in there is called Plaque X that you do. And I use that, and I had some bone spurs on my big toes, on each big toe. They hurt like heck when I hike, because I couldn't bend my toe up to, when you bend your foot forward, your toe actually bends backwards. I couldn't do that with the big toe, so it hurt like heck. And, blisters and all that, and it was an inch high. Well, 2 weeks of Plaque X, I think I did it 4 times in 2 weeks. It went from 1 inch to a 1/4 inch. And I could see for the first time in 35 years, I could bend the toe up and down. And I see the joint itself. Wow. I haven't seen it in 35 years. So for me, seeing is believing. I believe it because I see it. So, many things are going on that are getting ready to show what they're doing. This off-world technology and the off-world groups, like we have 3i at last, 3 eyes at last, 3i Atlas coming in. That's likely to be disclosure. I know there's Anunnaki and a Draco on that, but the Alliance, from my understanding, is bringing that thing in against their will. So it looks like that could very well be disclosure. And if we get that, and then Trump already posted about the med beds and then took it off in 2 days or 2 hours or something, 2 somethings, I think it was days. And then he was asked about it, or not, Levitt was, his press secretary was asked about it, press person, and she said, she just said transparency. Well, if that's transparency, that means that's what we're coming to. So things are coming that I thought we would not see for a long time. That may be a possibility. And with that, of course, then we have the whole situation cleaned. You can get that done and you're clean. And then if that's possible, if that does work, they get rid of the cabal and all of that. As they do this, all of this, free energy tech will be coming out too with the disclosure, which, some of the anti-graft stuff you can't get out because until there is no evil on Earth, that means 4D, 5D Earth. But the free energy that the TR3 uses and that the Golden Dome uses is something that we would at Tesla develop, that we never would have had monetized money systems that control the energy of the Earth and all of the we'll say, complex carbon-based fuel systems. Even the way we use nuclear energy in submarines, it's a steam engine. You're heating water until it's a vapor, it's dry. It's so hot and under pressure that it's dry, still a steam engine. There's now a way to use nuclear energy to go straight without the heat or anything else. It's called aneutronic, in which it creates electricity directly. And that's what they can do also in disclosure. That's systems they already have. And so these systems like aneutronic nuclear energy, where they can create electricity directly from fusion or from the 0 point itself, which with the TR3 system, that it's running on terawatts, and the thing that's powering it's no bigger than a shoebox. So you're talking something that could power your home that is smaller than you could see. It would be something that would fit on the head of a pin, and you wouldn't even be able to see it, and power your home, power your car, power anything you're carrying, a flashlight, anything like that. And so, there's a lot of things that are coming out. One other thing I will say that RFK has said, and this is my understanding as well, to deal with this stuff, stop using LEDs. Go back to incandescent lights. So anyway, yeah. Back to you.
No, that's very well said, Gene. I mean, we've learned so much from you over the last 5-6 years. I cannot thank you enough for everything that you brought to the table. A lot of people don't even realize that we're in a war right now, and it's a spiritual war, and it's a war that people don't. They if you're not paying attention, they don't understand what Trump said, and that is, the invisible enemy, and that's what we're facing is the invisible enemy in this war, and this is the war of all wars. We've had 107 on, and we're going to have one on here in the next week or two, and Juan says this is for all the marbles. This war is for everything. From my understanding, Gene, this is the 5th or 6th reset of humanity here on Earth. Am I correct in that? There's been other resets?
Well, yes, quite a few. So the first that I know of was when Earth was a moon called Kingu around Tiamat, and they destroyed Tiamat and eradicated almost all the life in this solar system. And in the process, the Mon Empire, the Kingu at that time was not completely solid. So it had some, magma on the surface and some solid materials. And so that was the Mon Empire. And then a small part of humanity was saved in that conflict, and the moon Kingu was brought into orbit where it is now. And then other rogue moons of, like Venus later, were dragged by to be put in the orbits they are in now. Venus, as it went by, cut the Grand Canyon as an electrical arc. As it got the resistance between it, couldn't withstand the difference in charge. That's why if you look at the Grand Canyon, the deepest canyon on Earth, you look at the delta going into the Baja in California, there's almost none. You look at the Mississippi or the Nile or any river, it's massive. there's a massive delta that goes miles and miles down the continental shelves and out to sea. And where did all that dirt go? It was vaporized. And so the first strike is actually outside Flagstaff. And the guy that bought that crater for the iron from the meteorite, there was no meteorite, and the inversion of material when a meteor strikes wasn't the case. It was stacked up in the same order as it was before, like you would with an electrical arc. And so in that process, that was the fall of the first civilization. The second one was Polaria. That was when the Earth had no ice hardly or snow at all, except above 22,000 feet. The next one was Hyperborea. The next one was the Uyghur civilization up in the Gobi, and also at that time all of Africa was part of that civilization, and that's what they had what is called the Pyramid Wars. And at that time, they tilted the Earth to get rid of the protection grid, like you see in Men in Black 3. It had a protection grid with the pyramids and free energy and free communication worldwide. That's what the pyramids all over the Earth, even on every little island, even the Azores, you got pyramids, you got them everywhere, because it's a massive world free energy system. Now that people are seeing what's really, I was talking about that for, decades about, there's lots of stuff under the Great Pyramids. It's massive. There's a city under there. There's power. There's all and now it's out, and that is actually there. And so that was all built by the Hyperboreans, but the Uyghurs were using that, and that they tilted the Earth by changing the orbit of one of the two star systems that orbits our planet, our solar system, which is the Nemesis star system that has the planets Nibiru. The star is a brown dwarf. It's called Nemesis, and it has the outer planet Nibiru, which is the home of the Anunnaki, and they also inhabit Hellion and Argoda. And so every time it comes through, they would come to Earth to mine gold, because when the Alpha Draco, the Shakar, took the Orion Syndicate took over their world and made them their stormtroopers, they used nukes on them. And so they're pretty contaminated still. So they have to get gold and turn it monatomic to reseed it. They don't have it in their system. It orbits at every 25,972 years. It's easy to know that because the precession of the equinox is caused by it. It causes the Earth's rotation on its axis at a 23.4 degree angle, I think it is, 1 degree for every 72 years. So if you multiply 360 degrees in a complete circle, you get 25,972. And so when it comes in under 86 degrees under the ecliptic of the Earth, it used to come in out past Jupiter and go in behind the sun, and go out past Jupiter. Now what it does is it comes in just behind Earth, goes around the sun in a 4-year trajectory, and then goes between the Earth. Well, you're talking 3 outer planets. Fortunately, the inner planets are in an orbit that when it comes through, they're below the ecliptic the entire time. So the whole system's not coming through. But you've got that sun, the brown dwarf, and 3 planets coming between us and the sun. That's caused a lot of massive extinction events since they've done that. And it tilted the Earth, which made the protection grid, the free energy, the pyramids, and it created the Pyramid Wars, where to subdue those civilizations, they nuked the Uyghur civilization in the Gobi and in the Sahara. That's why you find green glass. Go look at where we've used nukes in sand. You'll find green glass. That's like volcanic glass, but it's created by nuclear weapons. And so that turned those areas into, they used to be tropical rainforests. That's why you look at the wear on the Sphinx, and it has wear up, it used to be underwater up to the nose that Napoleon blew off with a cannon, so, and the wear on the haunches of it shows that it's far older than the pyramid, and that wear is by water. Well, when's there been water in there? A long time ago. So then after the Uyghur civilization, we had Lemuria and Atlantis, and they took over like we see they're doing now. The Atlantean civilization infiltrated it, and part of what is called the Neacal priesthood in Lemuria, that they stood. And so they built a refuge in Mount Shasta. They got some of their people into it before the war started. And that war, Atlantis had already gone to the moon, and they had particle weapons on the moon, and they had a massive cities on the moon. That's why, if you look, they had transparent aluminum that's stronger than steel by far, and you can see those with regular light-type microscopes that are built. There's really high-quality microscopes now that you can see a constellation Andromeda, you can see the moons of Mars, all kinds of things. And in there, you can see these huge, like in the Apollo missions, they kind of changed the contrast. If you get a picture and change the contrast, you'll see huge structures on the moon. And those was when Lemuria shot back. So Atlantis shot first, and it destroyed the capital Thule of Lemuria. It just kept firing and firing and firing and firing until it burned it down below the crust of the Earth into the magma below it. That's what created the ring of fire in the Pacific Ocean and caused the continents, which were one solid piece. The whole Earth had one solid plate. It caused it to rip around the entire thing, and most of Lemuria was destroyed. A big chunk went down and became Antarctica, and then another chunk became Australia. And then Atlantis had already been destroyed down to 5 islands before this in another war called the War of Gilgamesh. It was now 5 islands. It was destroyed utterly, entirely, except for the southernmost island, which went and became the other piece of Antarctica. So that's the last civilization, big civilization that was destroyed, was at Lemuria and Atlantis. And then that was already being rebuilt. Atlantis was already transferring their technology to build Egypt, and Samaria. And so Samaria was then destroyed later. But that was destroyed by white hats. That's why you see Göbekli Tepe buried, because it was so evil. They buried it when they overcame the darkness there. And that's why they can carbon date it, because you have carbon material buried around it. You can't date rock, but you can certainly date the material it was buried in. So there's a lot of history of the human species. Those are the ones I know of. There are some minor, smaller ones, but these are global civilizations that I'm going into for you. So back to you.
Go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Gene, but talking to Gene Decode, or listening to Gene Decode is wow. So you just understand that you need to learn and learn and learn and sit down and have your notebook with you. Otherwise, you'll be totally ignorant for the rest of your existence. So back on this 3I Atlas, there are some coincidences that I don't see as coincidences. It was discovered in July 1st, 2025, this year. The same date, allegedly, that Princess Diana, Lady Diana, would complete 64 years of age, okay? And the absolute magnitude of this huge event that is coming up on the 29th, at 129, you see, another 129 event, is the absolute magnitude is 13.7. And Trump received his latest, at least on the public eye, attempt on his life in a July 13th. So for me, Gene, I know the world will say, oh my God, this girl is completely cuckoo for coconuts, okay? And I am. For me, this 3I Atlas, is it real? Is it real? Or is it an alien event that is taking attention of the most part of the people. Because when there's a lot of people talking about a topic, it's because something is trying to be revealed, but a lot of misinformation comes with it. Am I wrong? If I'm wrong, I'm not afraid of being wrong.
So this is why I think it's about disclosure, because a truly advanced culture that is going, it's only going from the Nebula system more than likely, but the Nemesis system, which is quite a ways out now. It's on its way out. It passed through from 2016 to 2020, so it won't be back for 25,960 some years. But they're not going to send something that's a rock. They have technology that they grow that's partly organic and partly technology, and it's sentient. And their ships can go pretty much from any place in the universe through quantum entanglement instantly to somewhere else. Something the size of the Earth. A planet, they can move a planet that fast. They can have a ship the size of a planet. They can grow them. They're little craft. That's why you see their little craft, they're suddenly just gone. They didn't move, they're just gone. Because they have the ability to create like we saw with MH370, using plasma balls around it, but the craft itself does it. They don't need these plasma balls to transport the MH370 like they did to Diego Garcia for the superconductor room temperature chips that were on it. That's why the Alliance moved it. And so that's the White Hats doing that. And the people are fine and we're safe and it's not a genocide or killing those people or any of that stuff. That's not the way the Alliance works. The Cabal, yeah, the planes, quote, planes for 9/11 that did not hit the buildings. Well, the ones that were taken, those people are gone. They went into dumps and they're long gone now. So that's how the Cabal works. They do this things. And so Three-Eye Atlas is disclosure because a species that's advanced is just going to be there. Just bam, they're in the White House lawn with their craft. They're in the Vatican, they're in Moscow, at Red Square. Wham! All of a sudden, hi, we're here to help. And they've been seen over lots of nuclear facilities. We were going to go to war. The Cabal was going to nuke us. Caused nuclear war in the 1990s. Like I said, I followed two two ballistic missile submarines taken off of a SSBN, a ballistic nuclear submarine, on Ford Island. I followed them into a dump, watched them go into a dump. So I'm like, and submarine after submarine pulling in and taking all their nuclear missiles. I'm like, why are we disarming? Well, they changed the gold and the plutonium in the missile into gold. Also, in the UK, the largest storage facility, I'm getting ready to I'm doing an update on my UK decode on the dumps, so I'll reveal it in that on another interview platform and make it a world premiere there in honor of them. But they took that largest storage facility in Europe of nuclear weapons and turned all of the nuclear materials to iron, liquid iron. So it ran out all over the place and they had to decommission the base because that's something a little difficult to deal with is liquid iron running out of your missiles and all over the place. So they saved us from many times. The majority of those out there are not the Alliance Syndicate type. 96% of what's out there have saved our hindsight. I mean, the Cabal has been downing their craft, taking their people, torturing them, back engineering their craft to where the Cabal is near parity in their technology. That's something to be concerned about. Dr. Greer was correct about that. They're not going to allow the Cabal to go to parity because they're not going to have that going out into the universe. They have weapons that are coming close to being able to dematerialize, break the bonds in matter for an entire planet. I mean, this is where they're headed. So there's a countdown in several different ways. The transhumanism, the Cabal's technology curve, they're going to intervene. They're not going to let them get to that point. And with the way they are, because they already worked with the Orion Syndicate and the Fourth and Fifth Reich types to take a lot of worlds of the Milky Way, which is a fallen galaxy, okay. But now you're getting technology to go outside the Milky Way and start doing that. And also they cleared the worlds back, the Fourth and Fifth Reich took, because they took the home world of the Orm, which are the blue guys that met Eisenhower at Holloman Air Force Base, and we're going to give them technology as long as we just denuke the Earth, you know. And of course, they went with the Orion Syndicate and the Greys and the reptilians and that stuff instead, like the mustached man did as well. So in World War II, so they had that technology in Base 211, New Schwabenland, and they've been going out and doing what they do, conquering worlds, and so that's now stopped too. And our whole system is in quarantine, so they cannot leave. And the Solar Warden, which is the Alliance, monitors who can come and who can go in the system, working with the galactic alliances. And so we're really close to a lot of things going on. So a lot of technology, a lot of things coming out, things I didn't think would be coming out are coming out. And we're really getting close to
so as per your explanation, Gene, I'm sorry to interrupt you. This coming of this AI I'm sorry, guys.
3i Atlas.
3i Atlas. It would be disclosure of the aliens helping the humanity or helping to save the Earth.
Well, at least disclosure. If they go that route, what it's to do is to stop Operation Bluebeam, which was the final card of the Cabal.
Yes.
Like Reagan said, a threat from space that would get the whole world to come together to fight. In other words, a new world order, which is what they've been pushing. And, you know, that was been put out by, since the Operation Paperclip guys that started our rocket program were talking about this. The main leader of that program told the secretary that, you know, so he said that was coming. They're going to do this. And so they back engineered craft and created hybrids of humans and these different beings they've captured to make a terrifying foe, and they have the holographic ability to make a lot more, you know, look like it's there than it's there, and it's tactile. It looks like it's there, it feels like it's there. And so they're going to create, and they've already done some dry runs in South America where they've had like the face stealers and this things, you know, and all the abductions, 99% of those abductions are the Cabal. And the counter mutilation Cabal. So they've been all the movies, you know, every alien movie you see almost, except for, you know, a few of them like Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T. They're all like, you know, Martians destroying the world, destroying the world, killing everybody. You know, it's all, the aliens are evil, the aliens evil. Well, that's not the majority of the case. And it is the case for the lower level ones that don't have the extremely advanced technology like the Orion Syndicate. And they've been put up with for a while, but that's to an end too now. That's been ended by the galactic alliances because of their shenanigans out in the rest of space. So they're no longer they've been put on the farthest planet in the galaxy. A few that surrendered, and so now there's a law you can't eradicate an entire species. Well, now that means any of them can completely be gotten rid of. So that's what's going on in the dumps. They go into dump, they get rid of anything that's there that's not in balance with humanity, and you know, it's doing terrible things like the chimeras and all of this. I mean, the heroes of the dumps are amazing. What they fought down there is bone chilling. It is horrific. It is horrific and bone chilling. And they're true heroes. And I just give them all prayers and blessings and thanks for all of their their sacrifices and losses and lives and everything, and the millions of children they've rescued.
What blows me away, Gene, is how they kept this a secret for so many years. The dumbs, and then the children, the different DNA experiments that they've done with human versus animals, and all the things that you've disclosed. How the heck did they keep this from everyone? And I probably know the answer, but I want to hear your answer. But I mean, they've owned everything, and when they own the money system, they own the media, they own everything, the education system, Hollywood, the entertainment industry. I'm just blown away that this disclosure that we're coming into the Great Awakening and learning what we have. It just blows me away. How did they keep this from humanity all these years?
Well, you have to realize with the amount of power and control and the massive Mark Ultra program they have, a lot of people could be married to a person that they actually are getting information from. And the person they're married to doesn't even know it. They're activated, they go right on the person. So if they have a person in the programs, these black op programs, the dumbs and all that, they know that they could have somebody in their home they don't even know, and the person themselves doesn't even know, what you call a Manchurian candidate, that may not even know themselves. And then additionally, they know it's completely lethal. If they came out, they signed NDAs they thought were legal. They're not, they're unconstitutional. That, like Dr. Greer's saying, that's true, because the whole project's unconstitutional. But they thought it is. But on top of that, they know that they will kill their families before they kill them. Horrifically, right in front of them. Terrible, terrible deaths. And they will kill everybody they know. They also will be able to blackmail all kinds of children's stuff, you know what I mean, on their computers, their hard drives, in their homes before they had all that technology, that they would pack their homes with that stuff and say, this person's terrible, he's trafficking kids, he's doing this with this and this and this, and destroy the person's legacy on top of it. So they know their life can be ruined. They can freeze everything they own, take their homes from them, just like you can get somebody that hacks into your computer and get your ID and take your home. They can do that. They can take everything you own, like an enemy of the state. Everything is gone in the blink of an eye. And then they kill you, and they kill everybody you know, and your friends and your family, and it's lethal. They know how dangerous it is to come out and whistleblow. So they've got to be moved into witness protection programs and complete new identities and faces and everything. So that's what, these brave men and women that are coming out and talking about this, we're not going to see a lot of that. So, we will see the tribunals that are ongoing now and have been, but now for all these generals and admirals that have been removed, hallelujah, thank God. And now we have a War Department and a real military that's, going through the United States, bringing back the National Guard to guard the nation. It's not supposed to be over in Iran or Iraq or anywhere else, and the Coast Guard too. It's supposed to guard our coast, not Israel or somewhere else in the world. So that's being brought back and cleaning up the United States and the city. You see people in Memphis. I could walk to the store for the first time in 20 years, and that's because of the illegals they brought in. They were going to create a civil war, and they're going to still try. So, be ready and be prepared and have stuff in your home and what you need to take care of yourself. Food, supplies, protection, you name it. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's just wise to be proactive. It's why I learned martial arts. I'm a proactive person, and it's saved my life numerous times anyway, in more ways than self-defense. So, it's something very important to know all these things, and to realize what's going on, and to realize the reason it couldn't get out, except for a few brave people like Phil Snyder that they murdered, and William Cooper that they murdered, and Gordon Cobb that nobody hardly knows that they murdered, and a few others. You have some people that have come out, Dr. Coleman with Committee of 300, and, Officer Jack McLam with Operation Vampire Killer. That's one of the first ones I did, and the Monster from Jekyll Island. Some things have come out, but overall, you got to really dig, especially before the internet. You have to dig like crazy to get this stuff out. And I had piles of books and videos. We passed VCR tapes around to each other for those of us in the know back then. I did a radio broadcast in Honolulu, about the CME and all that, way back when. And so it's just, and almost nobody that I would tell, part of why it doesn't get out, I would tell people this stuff. Offer to show them the dumps, right? Take them and watch the missiles go into the solid wall of the volcano, right? It's like, and they go, you're out of your mind. You're totally out of your mind. And then every once in a while, usually a homeless person would invite me to meet somebody significant. So I met a guy that had been on the Eldridge in the Philadelphia experiment. So, which actually wasn't in Philadelphia Harbor, by the way. But anyway,
Right.
yeah. So I mean, it's just very hard before, and the mind programming through all of the media worldwide and the movies. They put it in movies. That's your best intel there is. That's real. People ask a movie. Yeah, I know it's a movie, but it's about something that's real. No, it's science fiction. No, it's not. And they look at you. Oh, come on. You don't really believe we have that kind of stuff. We had that 50 years ago. Watching Star Trek, we already have that. They're already doing that stuff. That's why when NASA said we can send ET home, and the head of Lockheed Skunk Works, when he retired, said everything you've seen in Star Wars, Star Trek, you name it, we got it. And they already said they can bend space and time. So if you can bend space and time, think about what they can do. And that started with Tesla. So Tesla, thank God for all of us, and we have Tesla who set this all in motion. And, he was telling people some things, but, that's where we are now. And that's why most people don't know. They don't research, and go with the mind control of the masses.
Right. So you know who Monkey Works is, right, Gene?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So Monkey is responsible for this post. I want to read this to you, and then I'd love to have you comment on it. Again, this is from Monkey Works. Okay, so we have been lied to about mostly everything that needed to be hidden from us to allow evil to reign over us, right? So what if 666 isn't bad like we've been told, instead defines us to hold within us 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, which makes carbon 12, which is the carbon we are made of. Like psychos want to monitor the carbon footprint. What if the divine equation, like God within you, remembering God, does 666 mean conscious incarnate? We've heard a lot about the Christ conscious, right? Oh, I lost my spot. Let me go. Okay, basically what it makes up our body is carbon. Safe to say that if we were made of carbon, then there will be a solar flash, which could also activate our pineal gland. In changing the poles of Mother Earth, then we could be upgraded to crystalline body, right? The truth is going to shock the world. Q. Man, that phrase has been more significant than we all thought at the beginning of this journey, wouldn't you say? How about this quote? We all know so well, nothing can stop what is coming. Because God himself is in control of these events and will happen soon. But first, what has to be done was 2 Chronicles 7-14. Then if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek face and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven and forgive their sins and restore the land. Now that's the time to be sure that you know the Lord and repent your sins and accept Jesus in your heart 100%, because the Great Awakening is upon us. I can feel it. You can feel it. The whole world is about to feel it. Anyways, hope this makes sense to everyone, because for me, in my house, it makes perfect sense. Now think about the compilation tour, why they all were capitulated, excuse me. Where we go one, we go all. The best is yet to come. Can you comment on that, please, Gene?
Sure. So it's a little more complicated than that. So six, is the carbon molecule, 6, and 6, for carbon 12. But the way ascension works is like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, the answer to the meaning of life, the universe, and everything, which is what I was studying most of my life. What is the meaning to life, the universe, and everything, starting with the I Ching. And I was reading and trying to understand the hexagrams. And that is the meaning to life, the universe, and everything, which is a code that you see in front of the Imperial Palace in China. You see it in the Abydos Temple in the Flower of Life. It is actually from opposite sides of that, taking that like those were popsicle sticks, you get star tetrahedrons that embed themselves into what is called the stellated cubo-octahedron. It's a 64 tetrahedronal metric. Well, that's the first event horizon. So what you get when you take 6 times 7 chakras, which are what are called the Bantan channels now, or the acupuncture channels and meridians, are actually organic fiber optic, conducting ultraviolet light from the pineal, if it's not calcified, throughout the entire body. That's why in Matthew 6:23, if thine eye be single and be open, in other words, the pineal, 3 eyes, the pineal, it has rods and cones attached to the visual cortex of the brain, which if it's not calcified, the foot bone of the cranium looks like it under if you take it out with a bright light like the sun behind it, it's the only bone that won't cast a shadow. We see like a honeycomb coming through it, like 6-sided shapes. And so infrared and ultraviolet light can go through the brain tissue. So the ultraviolet light is the resonant frequency of the pineal. It's due to the cavity's size and shape that causes a resonant frequency in any object, whether it's a wine glass full of water or what we call in submarines a Helmholtz effect, like an organ, where you have a big tube and it's being air blowing through it. It creates a resonance based on the cavity and the shape of the cavity. In this case, ultraviolet light then is conducted through the entire body. Well, you have some of those balled up in certain areas of your body, specifically 7 primary ones, which are called the chakras, which spin light through them in the series of upper gradient frequencies, starting with red, then orange, then yellow, etc. Colors of the rainbow, or Roy G. Biv, to remember: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. As those get energized, 7 of them, times the carbon in our body, you start to glow and you start to increase the vibration within you. And this is done through service to others, kindness, compassion, balancing all those, using, for example, the 6th chakra, or excuse me, the 5th chakra, which is at the throat, to communicate truth and information and not use lies to control others, like the cabal. That's descension. Ascension, you use it positively. Use the heart chakra for love and compassion and healing. Use the root chakra to, bring life upon the earth and teach your children to be good people and all that, and those kind of things. So as you take the 7 chakras in balance and you fully energize them, they energize the carbon to the point the vibration jumps an octave. And what that means is you go from third, where we are now. Some people are at second, so for them the Earth is flat. If you're at third density, it's a toroidal sphere, and so you jump from that to the next density, are called the astral realm. And so at that level, you're at 4th density. If you jump the next one, you go to the 5th density. So what you're doing is you're energizing the chakras as you go up. So you're 4th, 5th, then the 6th chakra is the pineal. At 5th and 6th, you're on what is called aurora earth. 4th density is working out emotional situations. 5th density, is working out communication. 6th density is working out your mental capacities and using them in service to others and knowledge and truth. And then you go through the crown chakra, and your whole body illuminates, and you go beyond corporeality. You become a being of pure, your soul becomes pure light. The carbon transmutes to pure light. And so from that point on, you become a being like an angelic being, but you can become vastly advanced, more than the angelic being could be, because you're individually souled. You're not an assemblage like an angelic being is. They're what's called an assemblage of information and service to God if they're not fallen ones. If they're fallen, they're localized to this universe only, and they're localized within this universe, like Azazel, who's Satan. So a human could go, that's why Christ said, well, I'm a mustard seed to what you can be, because we're created by an infinite God. Well, that means we're infinite too. We're a fractal of who we are. The eternalness of us is our spirit. That is a fractal of the Holy Spirit. And then our soul is created at the beginning of each creation, and that is for that length of that creation. And that is inhabited and given life by the Spirit that's eternal from creation to creation. And then below each of that, you have the 6 bodies in the Spirit, or 7, 6 and 1, which is what you see when you start with the seed of life in the flower of life symbol. So what happens is as you go beyond 7th density, as you go out into the heavens, out into beyond the fallen galaxy of the Milky Way, you become a very advanced being in service to the universe, or even to the multiverse, because every single choice a person can make, they do. So there's an infinite number of universes where people need to experience a different choice. And as part of the ascension process, as you go from 3rd density to 4th density, you actually integrate yourself with 6 other yous from 6 parallel timelines of specific things you chose that you have wished you could have, should have, had. I wished I could have, should have not married this person, or I should have not taken that job, or I should have moved here. And you will have gained that information. And so part of what has been done by the soul trap is locking all this information away so people don't know this information. There are people that do, like myself. There are other people besides me that know this and remember being here many times. And that was, what they call transmutation of the soul, was tried to be removed from the Bible. We have that decode on deep dives on genedecode.org, along with the triune system. I'll have that in the Golden Dome system and many domes and decodes on my site. So anyway, the process of ascension is 6 times 7 equaling 42, which is, again, Vedically compressed back to 6. So each layer is 6, then you go times 7, and you go to the next layer, or the next event horizon up. So it's regaining, energetically speaking, and also physically to a certain point, the original genetic code of the human being, what they call junk DNA. And it's 64 strands originally. By the time we were on Earth, and it was no longer orbiting Tiamat, it was down to 5 strands, pentahelix. And so there are children already being born now with pentahelix. Triple helix started in the 60s through birth control. It started what they call the indigo children. And then it became the crystalline children that did not need a 10 to 12 month carry. They were being born preemie but fully developed. And then you started having pentahelix. So now you have children that are born and they're like, you know, an Olympic gymnast at birth or something, or a concert pianist at birth. They're doing things that are just phenomenal. And this is the human species going back to where we came from as part of the Great Awakening. And as this continues, they'll be children that could walk through Ukraine and end that war. They could stop everything. I mean, this is what the human species fell from, a level of consciousness that is beyond what we can imagine before the archons and all of that and the fallen angelics and all this stuff came here and created this overlaid matrix on the creation of God. It's not a matrix entirely. It's an overlay. The beauty of this creation is still here. And then the true being shown in the movie The Matrix, that we're a battery. It's not we're inside a matrix. The matrix is inside us. And we're the battery for the blood is the battery for the transhumanism stuff. So as always, when they show you something, it's usually inverted. So invert it and flip it inside out or upside down. In this case, inside out. So it's both inside out and upside down because we are in a overlaid matrix. That's why sometimes you'll see like a jet hanging in the air because it's part of the matrix. And there are what are called non-participating role players that are part of the matrix. They're not really that people. Not really. It's like there was a movie made where one of them woke up. They can wake up and start to become real people too, but most of them are just the people you talk to, and they're not really there. That's our medical system. They follow rules because they've been told to. They don't question anything. They don't know about healing. They don't know where things originally came from. They don't know where aspirin and all of that came from willow bark. They don't know these are an aspen tree as well. So they don't know the basics and go back to the basics where it was completely the way God created. So now you don't have to go get the buffering compound back from the bark again. If you just get the bark in the first place and use that. So there's all of these things that they don't question anything, and they're in it. It's all about the money too, and everything's monetized, and so everything is about not service for service's sake, but service for wealth and power and control. And so we're now leaving that system behind. So that's for those people that are leaving that behind. They will transmute, like it was said in there. God will restore. That means take what's here and store it into where it belongs. Restore it into a world that is in complete service and harmony and balance with God. And this one will become a barren rock and will become a moon. So those people that want to stay in that system will have some time to experience that system at its very worst and try to come back to God and reintegrate what's left if they have any soul and come to God that way after the CME. There's a 14-year window. It'll be harder than beyond comprehension hard because you're going to have Z Nation and all that other stuff. And all the stuff out of the dumps, because the dumps that are unclean will be left. Most of them are clean. They're burning Dulce out now. So that's going on too. So, but, the Kabbalah's already let a lot of it out on the surface of the earth. I've gone driving up in the mountains on a road I've known all my life in the middle of two Christmases ago, going up in the mountains to stay at a nice resort. And they had in the middle of it was night already, and a road with no shoulder work. I mean, no place to have shoulder work. They said their shoulder work, and we had to take a huge detour. And I'm going, shoulder work? On 1 foot of shoulder? Before you go off the side of the road mountain? I was like, I don't think so. So when I came back, it's snow on the ground, and that was open. And there was no dirt or snow. If you're doing shoulder work, there'd be some dirt or some asphalt debris or something. Not only that, the flag people were obvious special forces, so I know what they're cleaning up, the stuff that the cabals let out of the doves, the dogmen and all these hybrid creatures. So, this is what is coming, and this is what that is partly saying also. It's a complex message. God will store again in another place, another Earth. The Earth is in service to God and directly in balance and alignment. So that's what I have to say about that.
When you mention about this 14-year window, Gene, it's because I checked for the solar cycles. We are on solar cycle 25, and we are heading to solar cycle 26. 26 equals God. So, is that it, like the peak of this new solar cycle, or the beginning of the new solar cycle?
Now, this does not tie to solar cycles. This ties to the nature of the Milky Way galaxy. The our solar system travels around the Milky Way on a 250 million year complete cycle. It's what the Mayans timed their calendar year zero on. Is that what they call the great year. The time it takes our sun to go around the sun that's in a black hole, like in all falling galaxies in the center of the Milky Way. Because it's in a black hole, in black holes out of the polar regions, huge jets of material go out many, many hundreds of light years out. Because Andromeda is on one side with a mass gravitational force, and the globular clusters in Sagittarius are on the other side, it causes that energy field, and that central sun in the Milky Way is an infrared giant, not a red giant, an infrared, even bigger. It causes that infrared energy to collapse into a energy beam, or kind of like a donut around the Milky Way. The Kabbalah calls it the Masonic ring. I just call it what it is, a photon belt. And it's infrared energy. So now as we're going into the edges, it's 3 days for the hard passage through, where it's solid like a laser. But it doesn't just suddenly come to an end. We've already been for decades going into it. That's why there's global climate change. It has nothing to do with us. Same thing's happening on Mars and in Neptune and Jupiter and Saturn, every planet in this system. Already the star system in front of us, Procyon, went through and they saw this happen. And so as it goes through, this is why they did Voyager, is to get it going fast enough to go through that belt. When they first saw it, they got an infrared collector on the Einstein-Hubble scope in space, and they saw this infrared, and they asked the scientists, what does that mean when we pass through this thing? And they said, well, it's very simply, it's engineering. It's electrical engineering, essentially, if you understand that. If you have a field and you pass through it on the other side of the galaxy, and the positive of the pole of that field was up, you go around the circle halfway, positive is down. Which means if your planet is oriented with its positive pole up from passage last time, when it comes around, it will either have to collapse its energy field and come back, or physically rotate in space. The whole planet will rotate 180 degrees. All the planets. Uranus rolls around the sun with its pole facing the sun because it didn't get the rotation done because it got tied between two planets, and there was devastation because of that. So it only got half the turn done. That's why it's still rolling until this day. And so now what they're saying, when we go into that, the planets are going to roll. They don't have time. They would have had to do it by now, by 2012. And now it hasn't happened. So what it means is the planets are going to have to roll. And so they're saying, what? Well, that's not the bad part. What's the bad part? The entire atmosphere of first of all, the sun energy of the sun, its corona, in plasma corona, will collapse to the core of the sun. And it'll go pitch black because all the energy is trapped in the core of the sun. And so for 3 days, that'll take 3 days to pass through it, there'll be no light from the sun. And so once, as the Earth goes in, its entire atmosphere will ionize, like what you see with aurora borealis, or more appropriately, St. Elmo's fire, because you have two different frequencies, positive and negative, bouncing. So you create eddies, or in other words, ball lightning, but not like at the equator where it's, roughly the size of a beach ball or a basketball, nothing huge. They said something the size of the trade towers, huge ball lightning. About 80% of the surface will be burned. Then the entire Earth's atmosphere will be ionized into the infrared spectrum, and it'll act like an infrared filter, shifting the infrared, bouncing off the sun and the moon to red, blood red. But the sky, you won't see the stars. It'll be as black as sackcloth. Sound familiar? For 3 days. So you have fire destroying the surface of the Earth, 3 days of pitch black skies, but the moon is blood red and the sun is blood red. Then after you come out, and the people that are in alignment during this time will rapture. They'll be gone because they don't match the frequency of being negative. They'll be positive. So they're restored. They will rapture to an Earth already in that frequency, which is aurora and median Earth taken from the ISS space station in orbit behind us. It's already there. Mm-hmm. So everything that's in positive alignment will go there. Anything that's in negative alignment will be in a compression field after it comes out. In other words, a dampening wave. It will dampen the existence of it out. That's why they've got that short window of time to get in alignment into positive service, positive alignment, and balance, or they're gone. So it's just physics.
That's the flip.
Yes.
That's when we flip. Yes. I understand now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for this Earth, for those that rapture out, they may experience, if they need to, 3 days of darkness. A lot of people that are already operating at a very high mode are already at fourth or fifth density. They're already compassionate, truthful, and honest as they can be, and every time they catch themselves not being, they go and repent and all that stuff and get balanced back out again and balance themselves. Most people may not experience anything except that they wake up the next day and things seem really nice. And maybe you see some new kind of animals and birds and stuff you've never seen before.
Yeah, like a fairy tale.
Yes.
You're right.
And they go, wow, what happened? Mm-hmm. So that's why they're cleaning up dumps and all that. People are, well, why are you even bothering if it's all going away here? No, it's going to be restored onto aurora median Earth. It's very, very basic physics. It will transmute itself like they can portal MH370. Well, God can certainly, through transmutation, energy frequency matching, transmute everything that's positive here in alignment with that other side of the Milky Way over to that Earth that's already in that mode. And all the people that are here will experience those people dying or just disappearing, or they'll have some kind of something in their mind for some excuse why it happened.
Yes, because God is perfect.
We will have some similar ideas too. We'll have, for those that aren't ready to say, yeah, they're on Armageddon line. They're on that ball of rock over there in horrific, terrible problems.
And
moon over there.
And Gene, that's why Juan is always explaining in his way, in his words, we are taking everything with us. Because we are taking, right? We are preparing the people, we are doing the work, we are changing the structures, and we're taking as much as possible with us. That's why we have everyone who is listening to this explanation. It may sound very technological, but it's an inner work, and you just have to move around use your life as an instrument of this plan, as
Yeah.
as an ambassador of your own existence in this new realm that we are building. We are the bridges, right, Jean? Am I right? We are
Yes.
bridges.
I used to look at the Navy's map for how the United States and the Earth and the Americas are going to change. And a lot of retiring upper NCOs and officers were moving to certain areas in the United States above 2,000 feet above sea level. That's not going to make any difference if you stay on this Earth. That it doesn't matter where you are. You could be on the shore, at the beach, and you have a beach home, and it transmutes to the new Earth. It doesn't matter. I didn't realize that before. And then as I started really studying this, it doesn't matter where your home is. You could be at 12,000 feet or 18,000 feet in the Andes or something, or you could be at, on the ocean at, right in the California coastline or something, or Peru or whatever, and you just suddenly be on it. It would seem things are nicer and more beautiful, and a lot of pollution is gone, and no more chemtrail. It's all right, And we went through all that stuff, and watched all these tribunals and all that, and the cabal lost, and we saw it all cleaned up. And for those on the other one, the cabal won. And now there's nuclear war, and most of the cities are blown up, and they will rewrite their memories. Their memories, I've actually experienced people starting in the process of rewriting, where things they said are things things I said is things they thought they said, and things they said are things they thought I said. I'm like, what? You got this backwards. And their memories of what has changed. They call it Mandela effect. And the cabal's already having where in their dubs, the ones they still have, they'll have like somebody up on stage talking to 25 of their upper people. The guy looks down at his prompter, or up at this, up above at his prompter, looks back at the audience, there's 10 people. Looks down again, or looks over again, now there's 3 people. It's like, where are people going? They're transmuting all over to the Armageddon lines, because that line will become this Earth. That experience will become, and they'll write the history of what's already occurred there. That'll be this Earth. So I know it's a little confusing, but that's how it actually works. And they have whole computer consoles and things disappearing. That's how they got a hold of CERN, the Alliance, because a whole lot of stuff just disappeared that were protecting them from being taken over. They're like, where'd all their stuff go? It's just disappearing. It's freaking them out. That's why, they're freaked out about losing all this and losing this and losing that, but it's way more than that. Imagine you're talking to somebody, and all of a sudden you're talking to yourself. You're in a room full of 10 people, and you're suddenly 2 people, and the huge computer console, quantum computer, massive thing is gone. It's like, oh my word, So it is just, for me, it's outrageously funny. For them, it's terrifying.
So, Gene, so when the Q post tells us nothing can stop what's coming, and this is biblical, this is totally biblical. We are living in one of the most biblical times ever. And this is why it's called the Great Awakening. And I'm honored to be on this call with you, Gene. We've had so many great guests. I've been involved with so many different people in this journey, learned from everyone. I never felt closer to God in my entire life, and as I have the last, 7, 8 years, learning about the Georgia Guidestones, learning about their agenda, and then learning about the Q plan, and learning from you and 107, many other patriots that have gotten into the fight. And I know that Juan told us the last time he was on with us that none of this was possible until we, the people, got involved. And this is the first time in history that the White Hat military in our Galactic Federation got us involved in this type of disclosure, and the information that you've been able to provide for all of us is never taught to you in school. And for all of our audience that's listening to this, you have to really, one of the things that I had to learn in this movement is you had to be humble, and you had to swallow your pride, and you had to swallow your ego, because everything you learned in your whole life has been total, I'm just going to use language, bullshit. And in order to get rid of the bullshit, you got to get rid of the bull. And we are just defragmatizing our brain from the MK Ultra that's happened to us. And Gene, boy, you're bringing a lot to the hard drive, I can tell you that. But we appreciate you so much. And you've covered just about everything that we sent to you on our list. The last thing I would like to talk about is the monetary system. Do you see this monetary system happening after disclosure or during disclosure? What do you see? We know that the Federal Reserve was a total lie. We know our money is a total lie. We know our banking industry is a total lie. We know our courts and our law offices, our police and our sheriffs, everything that there is a lie. What do you see happening in here where we start getting our constitutional courts, our constitutional police departments and sheriff's departments, and then we get into our real constitutional money? What's your thoughts on that?
The only one that can really answer that are the 10 people that know the plan. So the BRICS system is essentially what you're talking about. It's a gold-backed system.
Correct.
And you look at Russia, they have banned Satanism. They have banned GMO. They have banned many, many things, LGBTQ. All of this is happening. And Orban in Hungary is following suit. So a lot of the what we see going down will be merged in. So you are already seeing Trump talking about, no more taxation on Social Security, for example. It'll go bigger and bigger with the 17 trillion coming in from tariffs already, and $17 trillion in investments as well. Interesting number. And he's putting out there. So a lot of things going on, but to say when something's going to happen and in what progression is essentially impossible unless you read into the plan, and then you wouldn't say it. So no one can actually tell you that. I can kind of give an idea of what I think, but that's just my personal thoughts, and that could change with certain things. We know the Georgia Guidestones are gone, so we know what timeline we're on, and then we also see the fake news being known to the world. Trump put that out. At the UN, he said the fake climate scam that I put a whole series out on my Rumble and my website about the fake green scam. That's the world's largest money laundering ever done. And so that he put that out. He put out about the illegal immigration, and many countries now are saying the same thing. They will not put up with any more, and they're going to get rid of what they have. So we see several countries in Europe doing that. We see Trump telling Starmer that in the UK to do those things. And so we see this coming out and being put in front of the world, and the world waking up to the fake green scam, and carbon tax and all this stupid, ridiculous stuff, about carbon, and that we somehow make any difference whatsoever with carbon dioxide and carbon footprint and all that. And even if we did, we should be, because we're at the lowest carbon dioxide levels the planet has been at. If you go back to the Triassic era, in those times, it was thousands of what it is now. So, we're very low. We're coming out of an ice age. We better hope the planet's warming up. That's why it was a tropical rainforest from pole to pole. You had verdant life everywhere. It only goes up a few degrees, and then it keeps moving its way northward and southward, warming evenly. It doesn't just mean it's going to get 180 degrees in one spot. It evens it out. That's why you have jet streams and currents in the ocean. It evens it out. The ocean is the moderating temperature for the entire Earth, the streams and all of those, plus the jet streams. So they've lied about everything, and that's what you're saying is, that's what I learned in 1990 when I woke up to this stuff. Everything I ever know is a lie. I got to figure out if anything I knew was true. And then almost inevitably, everything I learned, like even gravity, is not a pull, it's a push, because particle waves don't pull on you as they hit you, they push on you. So, there is an anti-gravity system that's the negative portion of the wave that we don't experience. It can be experienced, but we don't experience it unless you're in extremely high electromagnetic fields or plasma fields. So that's how they do that in the space programs. But, it's just everything is inverted on us. And so that's one thing people need to do is daily prayer, daily meditation. Get yourself quiet in nature, even if it's your backyard or staring at a plant in your living room. Get quiet. Get your mind quiet. Listen to the echo, the sound you hear, shh, like an old picture tube on a TV, a rain on a roof. That's the word of God creating third density. And so get yourself quiet and on a daily basis monitor your thoughts, because most of them aren't yours. There's no such thing as you're not good enough, smart enough, any enough. All that's demonics going in your head. That's not you. God created you perfect. God made you flawless. Don't believe anything else. And anything that's telling you to harm yourself or harm others, that's not your thoughts either. Anything that's making you want to just accumulate stuff, that's not you either. So get rid of all of that. I spent 30 plus years going through and learning what are my thoughts, and learn to dream off of the astral plane. And learn, if you can't, at least learn to dream so that you know you're dreaming and you can change your dreams or wake yourself up. So when you're in a dream and it's not going the way you want, they call it lucid dreaming, you can change it. You can stop the dream or you can make the dream into anything you want. And it starts with just simply recognizing you're dreaming. So when you get up, keep a journal and immediately write down what you can remember. And do an intention of what you're going to dream about each night. And keep track of it. And when you're in a dream, stop yourself in a dream sometime and look at your hands. That's the beginning of learning control over your dreams. This is extremely important because very little of what most people think is their own. It's all this demonic influence making people think they're not good enough, smart enough, whatever enough. You're created for a very specific purpose, perfectly, for what you're meant to do. I'm meant to be Gene Decode and several other things. It doesn't mean I'm meant to be 107 or I'm meant to be RFK. Everybody has their own job. And don't look down on somebody because you are up to somebody. Everybody is equal. Well, as the Constitution, we're all created equal. And that doesn't mean the same. That means unique and beautiful and perfect. So learn your perfection and hone your perfection to a fine gem and glow with the beauty and the light of the Holy Spirit and bring that out into the world, whatever you're good at. If it's just planting, it doesn't matter what it is you're good at, bring it out to the entire world. And don't say that what you're doing is not important, because every one of us is important. That's why the Alliance is able to do what they do. And envision every day when you go to bed, perfect health and perfect, the world of kindness and love and compassion and no more war and peace, and you will be amazed. That's why it can happen, because they've been farming our ability to do that. They've been farming us by long-range Tavistock Institute preconditioning techniques, putting out movies and things, and then reiterate that, things like 911 and these things. And then they say it's going to be terror, and it's going to be terrorism, and that we reiterate. Stop listening to that. No, it's not. Just say, never gonna happen. I see this, envision it as if it's happened already. When you envision something for your life, see it, feel it, smell it as if it is so now, and keep living it. And every morning you get up, envision it. That's what I'm going to wake up to. It's going to be this, it's going to be this. So Greg Braden goes into this with a Native American where it hadn't rained in the Arizona Four Corners region, I think it was, for quite a few years, and the crops were all failing and everything. So he said to him, you want to go out and pray with me for rain? And he said, sure. So he take him out to the sacred circle of stones that was so ancient that the Native American and the elders didn't even know when it was built. And he just took his sandals off, walked barefoot out into the mud, into the cracked, dry earth. And about 2 minutes later, he turned to Greg and said, you want to go get something to eat? I'm hungry. He goes, thought you're going to do something. He goes, I did. And as they were driving to go get something to eat, it started pouring rain and had flash floods and all kinds of stuff. He goes, yeah, it's the only thing we didn't learn is how to turn it off. So when you envision precisely the quantity and the levels, and see it done. And, in harmony and balance and respect to the highest interests of everyone and your highest interest and the highest service to the one God of all creation. And that's how it's done. And we've been farmed and we've been used to create these wars and all this. And so now with the alliance and, the Q board in the first place, that got the awakening and the realization of the truth and the lies and the difference. So this is the wisdom that has been said that was a bad thing. Wisdom is not a bad thing. That's a contradiction. It says in the Bible, my people are lost without the truth and the wisdom and the knowledge. This is the truth, the wisdom and the knowledge. Learn your thoughts. Learn to be at peace. Learn to love yourself. Hug yourself every day. Tell your legs and your body how much you love them. Tell everybody in your family that you care about, your dog, your pets. When they come in, and every time you pass them, hug them and kiss them and tell them how much you love them, because those moments, those are one of a kind. Every moment is the only one. That moment only happens then, and everything else is infinite in the universe, except the time you're in. Don't take it for granted. I miss the times I was in Hawaii, and I was young, and I wasn't paying attention. And I miss a lot of it. That's why I was listening to Hawaiian music. I miss it because I wasn't paying attention and really focusing on being there. So, focus in every moment and focus on this time, because we're at a time of the fall of the cabal. And I mean, this is the planet in the galaxy, in the solar system, in the universe of the multiverse where it starts. This is it, right here. We're at ground zero in the entire multiverse. That's how amazing this is. And we're watching it coming to truth. I have been waiting for this time beyond time you can't imagine. You wouldn't believe me if I told you how long I do this. I've been working for this. And, this is life.
I can tell you this, Gene. I've been fully awake for